Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface with AZCHATS number 60! Oh my goodness, it's been a long time coming. Now, if you're new to my AZCHATS videos, I have to lay out the ground rules. It's just a cast iron thing set in stone. They are more podcasty type of a video as opposed to a visual video. It's something for you to listen to and not necessarily watch. So I might put something on the screen, I may not. But this is the perfect opportunity for you to step away from the keyboard, crank me up in the background, and then get on with probably about 6 weeks of non-housework because of the last AZCHATS. I mean, come on. I hear a lot of people saying, whenever you're doing AZCHATS, this is the only time I ever get to do some housework. Look, your house is now filthy. Filthy! From top to bottom. So I want to see, during the course of this video, I want to see people getting their marigolds out. Ladies. I want to see people getting their cleaning products out. Gentlemen. I want to see everybody scrubbing those skirting boards, scrubbing those floors, getting that laundry done. And I want spick and spam houses by the end of this video, because it might go on for a bit. Who knows? It's an AZCHATS. They tend to go on for at least 30 minutes. Okay, so with that said, I've got to go through a couple of other things as well. And first of all, of course, because it is an AZCHATS, it may contain fruity language, i.e. language of an adult nature. So if you are offended by such listenings, don't put yourself through it. But I can't imagine, I'm sorry folks, I'm going to disappoint some people right now. I can't imagine there's going to be too much fruity language in this. Maybe the odd word here and there, because it's a different style of AZCHATS today. You see, what I want to do is I want to discuss Legion, and I want to discuss what was announced at Blizzcon. And why have I waited so long to do this? Well, if you listened to or watched, either or, my live streams over the course of the BlizzCon weekend when I was relaying the informations that they were given out straight away, I said I will not do my Legion videos straight away. I will give it a week or so, and then I will just take myself away from the situation. I didn't want to make a video about the stuff when I was all excited, hyped up. You know, when Blizzard are giving out new informations and new contents, and because of the state of the game at the moment, it's very easy to get wrapped up in it all. It's very easy to get overexcited about things and blow stuff out of proportion. And then you kind of look back at it a couple of weeks later when you're more relaxed and calm, like I am now, and it's sort of like, So what I wanted to do, and this isn't a bad thing, is I just wanted to step away from that hype. I just wanted to step away from that euphoria of something that's new and interesting and coming, and just look at it in a more objective light. So this is this opportunity. I'm a week and a half away from BlizzCon now. All the adrenaline's worn off. All that kind of stuff's gone away. And I want to go through everything. This is why I've decided to put it in an AZCHATS. Instead of breaking it up into various videos, I want to put it all together for you. I want to go into the zones, I want to go into how it's going to start, I want to go into the dungeons and the raids, and the end game, because the end game, of course, is going to be so important. But do bear in mind, what was given out is a work in progress. Things are subject to change, but at the same time, we really kind of have to look at what Blizzard have announced at this BlizzCon as core features that they're looking to at least expand upon. I mean, I would be very, very surprised, and I mean very surprised, if we got any information coming out over the course of the next few months saying, well, we've actually cut that from the game. I don't think, touch wood, I don't think we're going to get any of that. I think they've been very careful this BlizzCon. They certainly don't want to repeat a BlizzCon 2013 where they promised the world and they delivered nothing. I think that they've, planned this out a lot better this time, just giving us little snippets of information here and there. So what was announced at BlizzCon, I do think is going to come to pass in the game. Oh, I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass later on. So first things first, how is Legion gonna start off? Well, one of the very interesting things that they said is Legion really picks up where the cinematic, which we saw, the amazing cinematic of Varian doing the narration, where he was constructing a letter to Anduin, where he was arriving at the Broken Isles, and It seemed to be a letter where he was almost resigned to dying. It seemed to be a letter that he was almost resigned to his fate, but at the same time, this was a man that wasn't going down without a fight. We then saw him allied next to Sylvanas, who was on a Horde ship right next to him. There was a little cheeky exchange of nods to show the audience that, yes, we're on the same page, even though we're on opposing factions, we are fighting together. And that is actually a very important thing. That is a very important theme, because we are picking up the game, the new expansion, exactly where this cinematic ends, and we have the cooperation of the Horde and the Alliance. We have that immediately. So we're going to have it started off. The pre-expansion event, which we've now heard removed from BlizzCon, is likely going to arrive about 4 weeks or so before the launch of Legion. So it's not going to be with us for humongous amounts of time, but we are going to be able to do a 40-person scenario. Now, I like it. I think scenario technology is an excellent technology. I think it's just been it was handled completely incorrectly in Mists of Pandaria. And then they started to understand it a little bit better, and we started to get some very good storyline single-player scenarios, which made a lot more sense and made much better use of the scenario technology. Now they're taking it a step further, and they're saying, right, we're now using the scenario technology, but now for 40 people. And the best thing is, it's going to be an even split down the middle Horde Alliance. 20 Horde, 20 Alliance, fighting together on the broken shore. They are fighting side by side against the Legion. You are going to be locking swords with these what seem to be amazing new models, because they got some fantastic new models of demons coming, but the person who's watching your back isn't necessarily somebody from your faction. And I like that. I mean, I'm one of these people. I'm not asking you to have the same opinion as me here, because this is a personal opinion, but I am one of these people where I understand that there has to be conflict between the Horde and the Alliance, but I personally get my goosebumps, my tingly imaginy moments when we actually team up. When we do see, your Varians and your Sylvanas looking across at each other from different ships and giving each other knowing nods to say, we're doing this together. I love those moments. I really, really enjoyed those moments. The Wrathgate. Oh, God in heaven. I thought the Wrathgate event in Wrath the Lich King, without wanting to over-wrath this sentence, but I think it's way too late for that now. That event was just spectacular, if not one of the greatest moments in the World of Warcraft, certainly from a narrative, from a storyline perspective, where we saw Bolvar and we saw Sarfang teaming up together to try and tackle the Lich King, and then it all went horribly, horribly wrong. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It was just that sense of, we understand our conflict, but we understand that there is a greater enemy at stake here, and that enemy is far, far greater than our petty squabbles. And I think that kind of pragmatism is amazing to narrative. I think it's a phenomenal storytelling device, because it actually shows how futile the actual conflict between the Horde and Alliance genuinely is, that it can be put aside so easily to tackle something which is more apocalyptic, something which can overwhelm everybody. It literally goes boom like that. And I think that's great, though. I'm not trying to trivialize the Horde versus Alliance battle, but at the same time, you still have to understand that this is a lot about ego, and this is a lot about old kind of events which just won't be let go, old storylines which just people can't seem to get rid, almost inherent hatred of each other, when you're not really understanding why we are genuinely fighting and why we shouldn't really be going alongside each other and giving each other our own space. So yeah, I kind of talked a little bit about that scenario, way more than I should, but I think there's just so much kind of great connotation that surrounds it, fighting alongside your opposing faction, Horde with Alliance and Alliance with Horde. And although I don't think you're going to be able to communicate with the opposing faction. And of course, there is going to be that human hatred that people have, you know, ugh, fuck Horde, ugh, screw you Alliance, you know, where you're sat here at your keyboard and mouse doing that. That's brilliant. That's absolutely perfect, because you still have to understand that, oh, I'm not going to help them and I'm going to let them die. Letting them die might actually cause the scenario to fail. It might actually cause you all to wipe, and you don't want to wipe, you don't want to do it again, so you've got to kind of begrudgingly help out your opposing faction. Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Can I just clap my hands together? Really excited. So even removed, even, you know, a week and a half, 10 days removed from BlizzCon, it just kind of gives me tingles that this pre-expansion event, and of course that's not even considering what's going to be happening around Azeroth, where these portals are going to be opening and Legion are going to be pouring out. But this very specific 40-person scenario is going to bring with it something which is lacked from the game for a number of years, which could be some amazing little narrative there. So let's go on to Demon Hunters. Let's have a chit chat about Demon Hunters. Now I'm very excited for Demon Hunters, and I think Blizzard have played Demon Hunters very cleverly here. I think one of the best things when they were pushing Wrath of the Lich King is that we always knew the hero class Death Knight was coming in. And it was an integral part of the process, and it was an integral part of the push to make people excited about Wrath of the Lich King. And I was giddy, not just to go to Northrend, not just to lock horns with Arthas, because, you know, there was that lingering storyline which wasn't resolved, and even in vanilla there were plenty of quest lines that you were doing, especially like me, if you were an Forsaken at the time, where you were constantly hearing about the Lich King, you're constantly hearing about this guy. So it kind of forced me, well, I say forced me, I did it with without any duress. It just made me want to go online and find out, who exactly is this guy? What exactly is the Lich King? Who is he? What role does he have in Warcraft lore? And I think that, again, is a very powerful tool that storytelling can provide. So I started to learn about Arthas Menethil. I started to learn about his betrayal and his fall from grace. This promising young paladin prince who was desperate to do anything to protect Lordaeron, ended up actually destroying Lordaeron. You know, it's a classic Shakespearean tale, but it was one that was done so well. And so, yeah, the Death Knight, which had always been another class in the game that we'd come across, Naxxramas, vanilla, and all this kind of stuff, suddenly we were going to get to actually play them. So there was a level of hype which kind of surrounded that class. And then you take it to Mists of Pandaria, and there was such a kind of nah about monks. There was no real kind of like build up for them. No big element there that was just like pushing, yeah, new class, monks. And they weren't even a hero class. It was just like, no, they're not a hero class, they're just a regular class. And there was sort of this very kind of, well, but it went across the whole theme of Mists of Pandaria, to be totally honest with you. But there was just this lackadaisical kind of attitude with it. Hey, in Mists, we're slowing everything down. Yeah, there's a new class. Whatevs, not hero class. You know, so there's like, didn't really generate that interest. So whereas like loads of people jumped on board for the DKs, because, you know, DKs were like, rah, yeah, I'm raising dead, I'm raising armies, I'm raising you, I'm fucking raising myself. You know, it's something like, would you like to play a monk? They kind of, you know, do a little bit stuff. Nah. You know, there's nothing there whatsoever. So the way that they're handling Demon Hunters is kind of very much of the ilk of the Death Knights. They're really kind of hyping the class. They're really kind of getting that interest going. Because one of the drawbacks to not doing that with the monk is that so few people decided to pick it up. It wasn't particularly bigged up. It was actually played down quite a lot. They came out really weak. And they just kind of did everything possible, really, to put people off the class before it even had its chance to shine. Whereas DKs came out strong. They came out overpowered. And I don't think that's too bad a thing, to be honest with you. Because it generates an interest in the class, and you'll always get the organic drop off from that anyway, and people will naturally return back to their mains, but then you'll get the people just like, all right, these are strong. I understand they're going to be brought back into line. What can I do to learn this class to kind of maintain my damage levels? And then you get the, so you kind of hold on, I think, retain a lot more people playing that class, which evens itself out. If you look at sort of the percentages of how each class is played, it's kind of similar up until the bottom three, and I think the bottom three is like Rogue, Monk, and Warlock. We kind of get a bit of a bad drop-off for those classes. So with Demon Hunters, they're being, pumped. They may come out a little bit OP. They seem to have an answer to everything with their spells and abilities and whatnot. I'm not going to go into them. I've done a whole video on that. If you want to check out that, by all means, please do. This is more kind of like the ethos now surrounding. So they really have got them pumped up, and because they're a hero class, they start at level 98. They start at a higher level, and also they get their own starting area. Again, something, you had your starting area with monks, but it's all kind of very twee and very serene. Oh, I'm on a giant fucking turtle. Isn't that great? Yeah, okay. So now it's just like, fuck that. I'm off to Mardoon. I'm off to this prison planet that Sargeras, when he was a Titan, used to imprison demons, and then when he turned bad, then he just freed them all. So we were going on this, Demon Hunters are going to be going on this suicide mission to Mardoon. But Mardoon is only going to be the first part. There's going to be like two main elements to your starting storyline for Demon Hunters that starts at level 98 and will finish at level 100. So the main focus is for you to get this kind of like keystone. And the word keystone is going to be quite important because keystones are going to come back later on when we discuss dungeons. So that'll be quite cool. So you got to try and recover this keystone from one of the Legion lieutenants. And then we've got all these new looking demons, which I mentioned earlier, and they're looking absolutely awesome, like bat demons, and they're bringing back the new Fell Hunter model, which we've kind of got at the moment. And then you got these very sinister looking demons, and then floating fat blob demons. It's gonna be cool. They're gonna look really, really good. And then they're getting their own mount as well. Demon Hunters getting their own mount, like Death Knights, but it seems to be a ground mount only. I'm not sure that it flies. It seems to be ground mount only, but it's a reskin of a panther. But it looks cool. It looks good. It's kind of very fitting for their class, and has a very demonic look to it. You wouldn't want to flick its balls in a dark alleyway and see what it did. Probably wouldn't end well for you. So that's always nice to see. And then part 2, after you've done all the Mardoom stuff, because when you come back from Mardoom, you actually get captured by Maiev and you. The champions of the Horde and the champions of the Alliance who defeated Illidan on top of Black Temple. That's me. You get captured by them and Maiev, and then you get imprisoned for what was going to be an eternity in the Vault of the Wardens. So after that, when you get freed, you then go to your respective capital city, Orgrimmar, Stormwind, whatever, and offer your services. Offers your services to fight against the Legion. And from there, I think you get sent back to Mardoom to set up your order halls and stuff. So there seems to be a very nice little narrative which surrounds the Demon Hunter. When you're leveling up from 98 to 100, you're going to be picking up your abilities along the way, but instead of just having them like gifted to you, you've now learned this, you've now learned that, you're actually going to tear the abilities from the bodies of certain dead demons that you've killed. I like that. I know it's just a very simplistic way to give you skills, but it's immersion. It's about keeping you in the game. It's about keeping you in tune with this new class. What you're all about. You're about killing demons and ripping the power from them and using the power of the demon against the other Legion demons. That is a Demon Hunter in a nutshell. It's me in a nutshell. So yeah, that's cool. It sounds really, really interesting little starting storyline. They've said that when the beta eventually becomes active, that this is what you'll be able to play through. So I'm looking forward to, hopefully, fingers crossed, giving that a wee bit of a crack. Now, from there, we had a very large discussion about trees and woods and the zones. Now, I made a little joke, you know, because it was an hour and a half long presentation when they were talking about Legion, and they spent an hour of it talking about trees and half an hour of it talking about the abilities. So I made a little bit of a joke about that, but the reality of the matter is, you can't play down the importance of the work of the art team. You really can't, because you just have to look at the fuck up, which is Warlords of Draenor. You know, this is an absolute fuck up of an expansion. They haven't listened to their audience. They've been very stubborn. They've thought they're doing what's best, and they haven't. Clearly haven't. They've made an absolute pig's ear of this damn thing. And what we got was just a mess, a colossal mess. It didn't stop it from looking gorgeous. The zones were absolutely spectacular. It didn't matter which one you were in, whether it be Tanaan Jungle, Nagran, Frostfire Ridge, Shadowmoon Valley. They all looked absolutely phenomenal. And that is thanks to the art department. That's thanks to the environmental team. I know I give Chris G. Robinson a huge amount of praise for the work that he's done with character models. But I think it's Gary Plattner, I think, who's the head of the environmental team. He deserves just as much, because everything, every little shrub, every tree, every mushroom, every stream, every waterfall, every building, every construction, every castle, and you could go on and on. They just are immense. They absolutely are just amazing. They give World of Warcraft such a unique and distinct style that whenever you see, and I've said this many, many times, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but whenever you see a screenshot from the World of Warcraft, you will immediately go, oh, it's from WoW. That is the power of the identification. That is the power of the uniqueness of the art style for this game. That you can see a screenshot and go, oh, that's WoW. And you can look at another screenshot for another game and go, is that Aeon? Or is that Final Fantasy? Or is that... You know, and they have a very kind of like similar aesthetic to them that you get yourself into, you know, I'm not sure if it's this, I'm not sure if it... Is it Dragon's Prophet? You know, you just wouldn't know. But screenshot, wow, boom. Immediately, and that's thanks to an amazing environmental team. So when they were going through the zones, and they appear to be, although there's 7 zones in total, they appear to actually only be 4 major zones. So I'll kind of go into that. I think, you know, the whole battle starts at the Broken Shore, but I don't think we have a humongous amount of time there. I don't think there's like vast amounts of energy put into the Broken Shore. I think we have the scenario, and then maybe from the scenario, from what I can gather, we're then being pushed out into the rest of the world. So the 4 main zones, which are going to be utilised for levelling up, seem to be Valshara, or Shajara, Stormheim, Azura, and High Mountain. Now, they seem to be the major levelling up zones. And then Suramar, which is the 5th major zone, is going to be top level only. But they just look, it doesn't matter which one it is, they look absolutely phenomenal. One thing that did scare me a little bit was there is another zone which is an area slightly off. It's not on the mainland, it's an island, kind of like Farallon, and it's called Thaldranath. And Gary did say that this, like Tanaan, and he referred it to Tanaan, is not ready yet and will come later. Now, I don't know whether or not he was just kind of saying the zone will come later, so it will come in a later patch, or whether or not it's just simply not done and simply not in a position for us to have a look at yet. But I think I kind of got the hint that this is something which isn't going to be available for launch, and this is something that's going to come at a later date. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, when we go through the endgame content a little bit later on in the video, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's really got to come to pass this time in another patch. You know, 7.1, 7.2, we're off to Thaldranath. It's really got to happen. We can't have another Farallon fuck up. because the Farallon debacle was ridiculous, you know, absolutely ridiculous. Saying that we couldn't figure out a way to put Farallon into the game when you're constructing a fantasy MMORPG is ludicrous. You could literally tell, and I think I've said this over stream, I might have said it in the video again, apologies if I'm repeating myself, you could literally put a fucking purple plant on Farallon and say, in patch 6.3, there's a purple plant in Farallon that we need you to pick, and then we're going to build content around that. And we would all turn around and go, yeah, well, okay, yeah, we'll buy that. Well, fine, that's our motivation, fine, fuck it. Yeah, we're off. You know, we don't need grandiose kind of reasons to go over to places. It was just that Warlords was a fuck up from start to finish. So yeah, we've got these 7 zones, but 4 of them seem to be predominantly for leveling, and then the 5th one, Suramar, is Endgame. Now, I'm quite happy with a whole zone based around Endgame content from the start, from 7.0, absolutely. But not only do these look amazing, and they went into like the art styles and the distinctive looks of them, and they again, each zone seems to have lots of different areas which differ from each other. Not only that, but the music, oh, again, it's something which just goes under the radar in the World of Warcraft, and it's just so powerful and so strong. The music, it was stunning once again. I remember when I first saw my first footage of Frostfire Ridge in Warlords Adrenal, and that music from Frostfire Ridge was just divine. And there was some music from some of the zones here, which just a few bars that we heard in the very short space that they showed what was what the zone was currently looking like was just magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And then, before we move on, very quickly, to really kind of like cap it off, one of the beauties is as well that the view distance has been increased by 3 times for this expansion. So you can see much, much, much further than you could before. So people who've got nice, sexy PCs like myself, oh, hell yeah! I love my view distance. I love my draw distance. I love seeing well out into the, into the nether. One of the best things about playing Fallout 4 at the moment is I am just looking. I could be at the top of one of the motorways, which is one side of the map. I can see the freaking airship on the other side of the map. Such is the draw distance in Fallout 4 that you can see so much. To have that translate into the World of Warcraft and see much, much further than we've ever been able to see before. Again, it's an immersion thing. I think it's a very powerful thing. It's not going to affect people that don't have powerful PCs because, you can still have the draw distance and whatever you need it to be. But people like us, people that do, people like us, I felt so snobby then. People like us. No, but people like me that do have a top-end PC, that do have a higher-end PC, and do want to make games look as pretty as they possibly can while we're playing them. Perfect. Absolutely freaking perfect for us. So that was awesome. So let's talk about leveling. I've gone into the zones, and I really wanted to genuinely give the art department some praise there because the work that they've done so far seems to be magnificent. They always do a magnificent job. I think they get brushed under the rug when it comes to praise because we're more focused on what we can physically do in the game, that they kind of get a rough ride, a bit of a back seat for just exemplary work. And it looks like Legion is going to look, and the Broken Isles is going to look unreal. From the Night Elf architecture all the way through to the Vrykul and the Odin stuff, the Stormhind stuff, and the Azuna. It just all looks spectacular, bum. You're not going to be disappointed there, folks. So leveling. Leveling is going to get a new structure. But it's kind of like a new structure, but there's definitely some issues here, okay? So, first of all, as I've already mentioned, there are only really 4 zones to level up in. The 4 that I previously mentioned. There isn't, Broken Shore, I don't think is a particular one, and then Suramar is going to be top end, it's going to be level 110 only, and then the other place the other isle we can't even get to. So really, there's only 4 zones to level up in. But you can choose whichever zone you want to go into to start your leveling. Now, that's great. That's great. To have that choice is brilliant. You know, leveling can be such a linear process. And for how good the leveling was in Warlords of Draenor, it was one of the very few successes of Warlords of Draenor was the actual leveling. At the same time, it was by the numbers. It was a very linear experience. You started off in a respective zone, Frostfire Ridge, Shadowmoon Valley, and then you literally just went Gorgrond, Talador, Spires of Iraq, and then to Nagrand. Okay, so it was just a by the numbers, on the rails kind of leveling experience. It was just fortunate enough that the questing was decent enough and the storylines that were attached to the zones were so engaging that made it fun. But I think I've got 10 level 100s now. I've done it 10 times, you know, without having, with just kind of, your brain switches off when you're just going through that now. Start off in Shadowmoon Valley, then I'm going to Gorgrond, then... so it kind of gets a little bit like that. At least here, you have the option. Oh, I'm going to start off in High Mountain. Oh, I'm going to start off in Azuna, and all that kind of jazz. Now, one of the problems, though, is teaming up with friends. Now, this is an MMORPG, and it's very, very important indeed to want to be able to level with your friends. And it's very important that you want to be able to level with your friends at any given opportunity. Okay? So, I play at a certain pace. My friends play at a certain pace. What I'm trying to say is we all play at a different pace. Okay? I kind of go at a bit 1,000 miles an hour because I'm very excited about stuff. Yeah, I want to do as many quests as I possibly can. Yeah, I get invested in the story. But another one of my friends, you know, they want to go a little bit slower. They're not, you know, oh, actually, I want to do some PvP in the meantime. Oh, I want to do some dungeons in the meantime. Whatevs. So the problem that we're going to have is, although it doesn't matter what zone you're going to start leveling, and the creatures are going to scale to you in the zone. So if I'm level 102 and my friend's level 108, we're still going to be able to fight the same mob together, and that mob's going to be scaled to 102 for me and 108 for him. The problem is, if my friend had decided to join me halfway through my questing, he can't pick up my questing. So if I started in Azuna, he started off in High Mountain, he's, you know, done some other zones, he's got to 108. I'm halfway through Azuna, because I'm constantly doing my, you know, videos for YouTube and whatnot. And he says, I'm going to come along and join you, we're going to quest together. I can't do that. He can't step into my questing. He can't pick up my questing. No, you have to start at the same time in the zone. So we'd have to go to a zone that neither of us had done and start the questing together to be able to quest together. That is a little bit problematic. Now, it's not going to stop you from just teaming up with a friend, and it doesn't matter if you're not bothered about leveling up. It doesn't matter if you're not bothered about doing the quest that they're doing. If you're simply there to help them out, to kill stuff and whatnot, sure, you can do that. But one of the fun things to do with your friends if you're leveling with them is obviously do the quests at the same time. So, yeah, that is a little bit problematic, and that was one of the... Now, you know, there ain't going to be any phasing issues like Elder Scrolls Online. So if you turn up to try and team up with a friend and they can be phased out even though they're stood next to you. No, you're not going to get that kind of phasing issue that you get with Elder Scrolls Online. But it is going to cause a little bit of an issue when it comes to leveling up. But I can sort of turn this a little bit around. You know, how short is the leveling up experience when it comes to the vast bulk of the game? Not a lot. So, yeah, it could cause a few people to get a little bit pissy. But at the end of the day, as soon as everyone hits level 110, that's when the real game begins. You're all going to be on the same page from there. You know, is it going to cause that much of an issue? Yeah, depends how many friends you have, I suppose. I, of course, have no friends. I have imaginary friends, and I have since I was a child. Right. So let's talk Endgame. You know, since we got to that level, let's talk Endgame. Because this is the most important thing. I know some people have had a go at me because I have said what I said just before, which is about, for all the good that leveling is, it's just such a short experience when it comes to the grand scale of the game. You know, that's just the reality of the fact. You know, don't get pissy with me for that. That's just the reality of it. It doesn't matter how good a leveling structure is. It doesn't matter how much fun the leveling is. Leveling takes you a week. It takes you 10 days. An expansion is with you for 2 years. A year and a half, 2 years. So that week and a half becomes inconsequential. It just becomes, irrelevant to a degree. And so much so, actually, that there was an article recently where they nearly actually didn't put leveling into this expansion. That was one thing that was discussed. That leveling was not going to come into Legion. They're going to stay at. We were all going to stay at level 100 because it's a nice round figure, and we would sort of like start to get more powerful gear, but as opposed to physically leveling up, because that is literally how irrelevant leveling genuinely is in the grand scale of an expansion's life. But it is a core focus that a lot of people do like. A lot of people do physically like to see that progression. They do like to see a level 100 go to 101, 102, 103. We all like numbers. We're all stat wankers, aren't we? Because we love MMORPGs. So they eventually decided to keep along with the old classic style and not break away with it. I would have loved to have seen them take a risk. But, that's just me. That's just the devil in me. That's the devil in me. Just wish they had kind of like taken a risk there. Excuse me. So what are we going to do? Endgame. Well, this is where Warlords of Draenor fell apart. Is the endgame. The leveling was great. The zones looked phenomenal. The dungeons were great to begin with for the first couple of weeks before the raid came out and LFR came out, and then they just got destroyed because they became irrelevant. So what are we actually going to be able to do in this expansion? Are we going to have AP zones? Are we going to have absolutely useless reputations? Fucking shoot me now. Look, I think one thing that we can take from the monstrosity of Warlords is I do believe Blizzard understand. Whether they admit it or not is irrelevant. I do believe Blizzard understand they fucked up. And what they deemed acceptable for endgame content was simply unacceptable for endgame content. Doing a small proportion of a zone day in, day out for 18 months is not fun. Having your followers go out and do shitloads of missions on a garrison command table while you stand in your garrison crying because you got nothing to do was wrong. So Endgame, we have something which I actually called for. I am not saying that they've done it because I've said this in the past before anybody jumps on me. But this is something which I called for time and again throughout Warlords of Draenor. When it came to the command table, I was just like, why do our followers do it? I want to do it. I want to do it. Fuck my followers. I want to do it. I want to select a mission. I want to go out and fucking do it. Well, guess what? We are. There's kind of like a new command table coming into the game. I hate to use that terminology, but I'm just using that terminology so it puts a picture in your head. And what it's going to be is when you open up your map at top level, there are literally going to be quests in every single zone. Because they have this scaling technology now for every zone becomes level 110 when you get to level 110. That is brilliant. That is absolutely fantastic. So every creature that you're going to fight from there on in is level 110 or above, depending on whether or not you're in Suramar or maybe some specific areas of the map or what it may be. But because the world scales up to you, the world, I'm sorry to use a cliche, sorry, not sorry at all, the world is literally your oyster when it comes to endgame Broken Isles. So you can now get sent into any single solitary zone, everything scaled up to your level, and on your map you will be able to select quests for you to do. So it's kind of like a garrison command table. You select the mission that you want to do, and you select it based off different criteria. You can select it based on your play style. So if you just like hacking things to pieces, you just like combat, then you can just select the combat missions and go and do those combat missions. Or if you like something a little bit different, let's say you're a rogue and you want to do something a little bit sneaky, you could select a mission which actually gets you into the world to pickpocket stuff. We need you to pickpocket these items from these mobs. Something completely different. Oh my god, holy shit, diversity. And the beauty is, these missions are going to be constantly revolving. They're not going to be set in stone. So a regular mission, it might be available for only an hour, maybe 2 hours. And if you're not particularly interested in the reward that it offers, then fine, you just let it go by. Whereas a larger mission, let's say an epic mission, and you will see which missions are going to be epic because they will have like the golden dragon symbol around the mission and stuff like that. So you will understand which ones are offering sexy big ass rewards. They could stay for 7 days. So it gives you plenty of opportunity to do so. So you pick the zone that you want to go into, you pick the mission and the play style of that mission that you want to do, and then you go out and you do it. Now, this has got great connotations. Number one, it's diversity. It's a word which we haven't heard for fucking ages when it comes to World of Warcraft. It's big ass diversity. You can choose the play style that you want to do. Number two, it gets you into the world. This is the problem that the World of Warcraft has had for so long. In actual fact, I never had an issue with being out in the world when it came in Wrath of the Lich King. My issue with being out in the world hit in Cataclysm. That's when I found myself anchored to Stormwind, and then it didn't get any better in Mists. You kind of, you kind of found yourself a lot just chilling out in the shrines, not really going out there until things like Isle of Thunder came along, when that became a decent questing hub area. And then, of course, the debacle of Warlords of Draenor, where we spent 8-9 months in our garrison doing nothing. So yeah, getting you out into the big wide world is a massive problem that Blizzard have had. So to offer all these choices of questings at top level, to have everything relevant strength wise to your own power, for you to be able to select the missions based on the reward that the mission gives you, the playstyle that the mission has, the difficulty level of that mission, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's something that we've kind of like wanted for so long, and it's happening. So I couldn't be any more excited for this. I really couldn't. I think if they do keep with diversity, if they do keep things churning along, you got your profession missions on there. You got PvP missions on there as well, because one of the things could be to attack a horde base. You have to go, this mission is for you to go and attack a horde base. Well, those horde mobs are, they're part of the horde faction. So you attack them, you're going to get flag PvP. So that gives you the option to start doing some PvP missions. If you've got a member of the opposing faction that's currently in that area and they're just like, hey, stop fucking hitting my mobs, they're going to come along and they might have a stab at trying to defend you, attack you, sorry. On the reverse flip side, not only are you doing that mission, but you might see some flag players. Right, fuck this, they're getting it as well. Everyone's getting a fucking Ashbringer up their ass. You know what I mean? So this leads to some very kind of organic PvP scenarios as well. Some world PvP in a relatively organic situation, kind of akin to how it was on the Isle of Thunder, one of the most successful patches the World of Warcraft has ever created, if not the best. I think it's the best. So as long as they keep this diversity of questing, as long as they make sure that there is plenty of different ways to do it, like the brilliant pickpocketing rogue quest, they could change, they could do class-specific missions on there. Don't have to be massive and grandiose, but let's say for a warlock, they could have one that just says, right, we need you to enslave this demon, and when this demon's enslaved, we need you to turn it upon the enemies and destroy a pillar. You know what I mean? So they can make it relatively simplistic class quest-wise, but it does lend itself to really having that, you could take it places. This can be taken places. Even the sort of starting you know, what they're kind of like showing us now, these little inklings about what they'd like to achieve, even these really do have the roots to grow out and expand into something quite special. So yeah, I couldn't get any more excited about that if I freaking tried. So yeah, and then if this also links together, I must say this also links together with your order halls. So because Blizzard don't want you to be anchored in your order halls, and it does sadly look like order halls are going to be predominantly a kind of quest hub area, which is what I didn't want it to be, but yeah, you know, now that I understand how they're doing the endgame content, what I kind of wanted out of order halls is sort of being integrated into this, you know, this map command table, so to speak. So okay, I can get it. But you could have people from different factions, ambassadors from different factions, turn up to your order halls, and they stick around for a few days, 3 or 4 days or so, and they will offer you a quest to aid them. And their quest would say, look, if you complete 5 Night Bane, whatever they're called, Night Bane quests, then we'll give you a reward for doing so. So you go out using your world map, and you see that, oh right, if I do this mission, this is actually going to contribute towards what they wanted me to do. And then you can look around all the map and see how many of those missions there are. And if they want you to complete 5, but you've got 8, 9, 10 available on your map, you can start to cut off the ones that you're not particularly interested in. Well, that one's just a, you know, that one's a PvP one. I don't want to get involved in that. That one's just a collect quest. I don't want to get involved in that. I want to stab stuff. Oh, look, these 3 here, they're stab stuff. And, oh, these 2 here, actually, they've got a little niche to them as well. I'll do them. So you can also designate how you do the quests for these various factions, which gives reputations more relevance. Sorry, not relevant. They are relevant. It makes them relevant, but it gives them more relevance. And you can do that for all the different factions which decide to turn up in your order hall. And if you don't want to bother dealing with those people, you don't fucking talk to them. And in a few days' time, they'll bugger off and more will come along. Or, you know, more will come along in the interim anyway. Instead of having 2 ambassadors, there's 4 ambassadors. And you're just like, you know, I haven't logged on for a few days. I've got 4 ambassadors here. Fuck it. Let's just do them all. Let's do them all. So it gives you, you know, you don't feel as if you're missing out. You feel as if you can go at your own pace. You're choosing your style of quests. Oh, I've got to give the endgame idea. I mean, until I practically test it out, but I've got to give the endgame ideal kudos, huge kudos. It feels exciting. It sounds exciting. I can be out in the world and still be choosing where I want to go. I don't have to go back to an order hall. I don't have to go back to a capital city or Dalaran. Yeah, I might want to go back to socialise. Yeah, I might want to go back because Dalaran's going to look new and look a little bit different. But just to have that ability to be out in the world and choose your own fate, as opposed to having to go back to select quest givers in a specific area and feel as if it is just a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I love it. I love it. You might get the impression that I quite like it, because I do. We then go on to raids. I'm going to only touch very briefly on raids, and the reason why I'm going to touch briefly on raids is because it's still following the standard format. There's no real difference with raids. There's going to be 2 available in 7.0. They're going to be staggered releases like we've had before, and just like High Maul, the first one's going to be 7 bosses, and just like Blackrock, the second one's going to be 10 bosses. So don't expect tier gear to be in the first raid. Expect the tier gear. What's it going to be now? Tier 19? I can't remember anymore. It's been so many. I think it's going to be tier 19, he says tentatively. God, they're going to jump on me in the chat if I'm wrong. You know, expect that to come in the second of the 2 raids. But where they are, actually, let me just get my bit of paper back. Where they are is the first raid is going to be in the Emerald Nightmare, which is rather cool. The Emerald Dream's been corrupted into the Emerald Nightmare. And then the second raid, which Gul'dan is going to be the final boss. Now, that's exciting. That kind of makes me want to get together with a raid group. Is the Palace of Suramar. And the cool thing is, I'm going to talk about dungeons now, is Suramar, the massive city, Suramar City. Not only does it house a raid, houses a couple of dungeons. Oh, again, the stuff which we've been saying, you know, ICC, you had ICC and the 3 dungeons around it. Also with End Time, you had Dragon Soul, you had the 3 dungeons that surrounded it. And then, you know, Ulduar, you had the 2 dungeons with Ulduar as well. It's awesome to have dungeons linking to your raids. So we're going to have that again. So that's another massive positive. It does feel like they're listening, doesn't it? Holy shitballs. People, have we started a revolution by unsubscribing? Right, but I want to talk a little bit now about dungeons, because dungeons, number one, very kind of important to me. Raiders, by the way, don't jump on me in the chat for how brief I talked about raiding, but there's nothing new coming along. That's it. It's just standard format. Okay. Now, dungeons, they need to be discussed, because dungeons are irrelevant in the game at the moment. They are complete and utterly irrelevant. They don't have any worth in the game whatsoever. And Blizzard have kind of made that even worse by time walking, because time walking is completely irrelevant as well. So in Legion, they really have to do something special with dungeons to make them relevant, to make you still want to run a dungeon 2 months after the launch and not be reliant on the Emerald Dream, the Emerald Nightmare LFR to get your gear. So what they're doing, and first up, there are going to be 10 dungeons, 5 leveling up dungeons, and then 5 max level dungeons. Now, I am a little bit scared by that. I think 10's a decent number to start with, but I'm hoping that the 5 level up dungeons also have a max dungeon system as well. Somebody help me out here, because the way that they described it, 5 max level, 5, you know, leveling up ones. I'm really hoping that the leveling up ones do have a max level as well. And that would bring us 10 max level dungeons, and all we could do them all. Put it this way, it'd be very odd if they didn't, wouldn't it? It'd be very odd if they didn't. But it doesn't matter, again, depending on the zone that you go to, because apparently most of the storylines of the zones are going to end with you having to go into the dungeon of that zone. It's irrelevant whether you're level 102 or 108. The dungeon will scale to you. So this allows for a lot more people to be involved in the dungeoning queues as well to start off with. Brilliant. That's what you need. You know, we need more tanks and healers available for the hundreds of thousands of millions of DPS. So that's good. So it doesn't matter whether I started off in High Mountain and my friend ended in High Mountain. If we did the dungeon together, it would scale respectively to us, which is fantastic. So I like that. And then this is the big thing, because, you know, leveling up only plays a very small role. It's all about the end game. So how are they going to make end game dungeons relevant? Well, what they wanted to do is they wanted to kind of interweave mythic dungeons and challenge mode dungeons and heroic dungeons and kind of weave it into a form of end game content that everybody could do. So if you currently, your maximum game ends with heroic dungeons because you do not raid, this would still be content that you could get involved with. This could still be content that you could consider your end game above and beyond just doing heroic dungeons. So what is it? Well, they're introducing something called the Keystone. Remember when I talked at the start of the video, earlier in the video, about the Keystone that you had to retrieve when you were a Demon Hunter in Mardoon? Well, you're going to be finding Keystones, and they're called Challengers Keystones. And I think you can only get 1 a week, from what I can gather. This is information which has come out from interviews post BlizzCon. But you'll be able to get a keystone a week. And what the keystone will do is, from what I can gather, this could be wrong, and I could be wrong here, but if I am, forgive. If I'm not, this is really interesting. The keystone will have like a level attached to it. So you could find a level 1 keystone, or you could have a level 13 keystone, or I don't know if the keystone automatically scales based on your power. But I think the keystone does in some format, have different levels. The higher the level of the keystone, the more powerful the debuff that's going to be applied to the endgame dungeon to give it the toughness, to give it the difficulty level that you're striving for. So you use a keystone, and the keystone will proc various debuffs. So, for argument's sake, you will get a debuff that will make every creature berserk when they hit 30% health. So when they berserk, they're doing 100% more damage. So they're doing double damage. Or when a mob dies, it will explode. Or there'll be extra mobs in the packs. Or there'll be constant periodic damage going throughout the course of the whole party. So already, just from those 4 that I've gone through, people who are kind of a little bit clued in to how you play the game will automatically say, okay, well, those first 2 that you mentioned, they're going to have a huge effect on AoEing. Because the way that dungeons are really done at the moment is you just gather all the mobs together, you stun them, you AoE them, you stun them, you AoE them, and that's how we do it. And you just eat packs alive. So these challenges, these debuffs are actually actively preventing that from happening. Because if you're AoEing all the mobs down and they all hit berserk, chances are your tank's going to get fucking eaten. Again, the same. Or if they explode when they die and you're AoEing them all down, your melee and your tank is going to get annihilated because it's just going to go boosh. And they're all dead. So you've got to be like, okay, we can AoE down to 50%, then we're going to go single target. So you have to work out your strategy, because once more, you will be up against the clock. But unlike the challenge mode, the clock is a little bit generous. So it's the way they've stated it is the clock is going to be a little bit more generous than achieving a silver ranking on challenge modes at the moment. So I think you'd have like 35 minutes to do the dungeon with the debuffs. And then if you completed the dungeon in that time, then you get yourself a sexy ass reward. Because you've met the criteria and you get yourself a juicy, sexy, squeeze me baby reward. However, the keystone is a risk and reward situation. So if you didn't complete the dungeon in the allotted time, you will still get some loot. It won't be as great as the loot if you completed it, but your keystone will be depleted, and that will be your keystone gone. So you can't reset and do it again. Also, one of the beauties from what I can gather, the keystone will direct you to a random dungeon. So it's not as if you can cherry pick the dungeon that's the easiest to apply them to either. So the keystone that you might find says, actually, this is to go into the Suramar City catacombs or wherever. So, you do have that element attached to it as well. So that's really cool. So you don't get to cherry pick. The keystone is going to do a lot of the dictating. And then you have got to do the extras. You've got to cope with the debuffs based off of that. And then if the keystone gets, does get a higher level and it becomes more and more difficult, then yes, that is going to be a bigger and bigger challenge. So there will become a breaking point. There will be a breaking point for people. So those chaps and chapesses I was talking about earlier, where heroic dungeons are currently their end game, suddenly their end game might actually turn out to be Keystone level 5. Whereas your or my end game might be Keystone level 16. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how good, bad, casual, hardcore a player you are. You can all get actively involved in this dungeoneering, and you will play to your own level. You will play to the level that you break at. You will play to the level that you cannot get past. That is brilliant. Again, that is brilliant. It makes the reward relevant regardless of what your keystone is. It makes you just get that extra challenge out of it. you know, to say my game ends because I don't raid, bullshit. You've now got the opportunity to keep on dungeoneering and push it as far as you can go. And who knows, do you know, let's have a little bit of a rose tint here, hey? Who knows? You might think that your keystone would max out at level 5, but, you know, you actually might be good enough to get to 8 or 9 or 10 because you push yourself. So it's really good that it might actually get you involved a little bit more in trying to push yourself to the next level. So that's what we know so far. According to Ian, there is more endgame stuff to talk about, but it's TBA. It's to be announced. So we don't know too much about that right now. But from the week, you know, the week and a half, the 10 days removed from BlizzCon, where all the hype, all the adrenaline, all of that stuff has dissipated, and I could look at the information in an objective light, I'm excited. I am really excited. Not now just because, you know, it sounds good. Not just because, the Burning Legion's coming and all that stuff. No, I'm excited because the contents that they've announced seem to have life in them. They don't seem to be flashes in the pan. You look at it and you say, yeah, that's going to be over in 5 minutes. No, you're suddenly now looking at it going, do you know, this has got some depth. This has got some life on it. I could see myself still doing this in, you know, 3, 4, 5 months' time. And that's what we want, because when you're looking at 3, 4, 5 months' time, you're hearing rumblings of, right, well, patch 7.1's coming out soon and we're going to go to this part, or it's going to bring with it these dungeons, or it's going to bring with it that. So it looks like the content seems to be relevant enough to carry on us over through the patches and maybe beyond, because we're pushing ourselves, A, through raiding, B, through this new challenge dungeon system, C, because we're doing the artifact stuff for different specs now, so we're doing and leveling our other artifact weapons. D, because D, it's a good number. D, because we're going onto that world map, and we're still doing the questing because we like to have that choice. We like to have that pace that we can go at. You know, and that's just off the top of me bonds. Never mind that we know that although we can't fly in 7.0, we can work on the achievement. The achievement is going to be in the game, so we know what we can work towards in 7.0 for whenever it does come back in and things like that. There seems to be a lot to be getting on with, and there seems to be plenty in 7.0 to carry us through to 7.1 and beyond. And that is the most exciting prospect. That, to me, is the most exciting prospect. So it's great. It's absolutely great. I've wanted to, you know, I've always maintained my love of the World of Warcraft. I love the game. I just hated what it's turned into. This gives me hope. It really gives me that hope. It really gives me that chill that, you know, I'm not expecting them to hit every nail on the head here. You know, I'm expecting some stuff may not work brilliantly, may not quite work as intended. There might be a few little missteps along the way. But as I've always said again, mistakes are so forgivable when you can see the heart is in the right place and you can see what they are attempting and trying to achieve. And I see a lot of heart in this content. I see a lot of thought. I see a lot of love. I see a lot of grueling sessions around the table, people hammering this out. I see a lot here, and I couldn't be more excited if I really tried. So bring it on, please. Let's start it. Let's just get on with it right now. My body is ready. No, but seriously, I you know, the sooner I can get my hands on this to start testing it out, the better. And on top of all this, of course, there's a whole new class to play with Demon Hunter. It's exciting times. It's exciting times. So be optimistic, folks. Be cautious, but cautiously optimistic is what I would say, because I think there is some great stuff in development here. So there we go. AZCHATS number 60 comes to an end, and as I try and say to my girlfriends before they turn around, no, it's a long one. It's a long one. No, it ain't has. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.